Well, I'm looking in the book, and I do see under the F's, Gary Blake Frazier. Yes, and there was a $30,000 decrease to mine. So my appeal did work. It does work when you can. And what happened in my situation was a square footage issue. So it does work to come in and appeal. It's my favorite question. It's right before our last one. Why is it that you send out our tax bills at the worst possible time of the year, Christmas? I can't even imagine how we're going to be able to give a gift at all this year. Our payment will double. Isn't there a way to move this to when many of us receive our tax refunds? Could it not be moved to spring? Everyone is happier when it's sunshiny and the grass is green. Just a thought.
It's a good thought. This is a major complaint. Now, what ends up happening, Blake, as far as the process goes, we're in a calendar year, and everything is based on remember, tax day is January 1 of that year. It's what everyone owns that day. So people have to send their 762, their personal property report, to our offices. They have until May 1st to do so. Businesses have to return those personal property reports. What ends up happening after we receive those personal property reports, they have to be evaluated, depreciated, and so forth. One of the biggest misconceptions about our office is that we work during tax time, and then we're done. We receive those personal property reports, all 21,000 plus of them, and then they have to be worked. That takes time. So during the months of June, July, and up until August, we're getting all of that together. We get towards August, we need to be getting to the point to where we not only have the reports worked, but everything's keyed into the system. That takes time. Now, we have to, by the Code of Virginia, we have 90 days to get our personal property and real estate book completed. By the Code of Virginia, it has to be 90 days past when the Board of Supervisors establishes the tax rate, either September 1 or 90 days. That takes time on the personal property side. There's no way that you could send personal property taxes bills out in the springtime because you wouldn't have an adequate amount of time to be able to get all of that together. However, some counties are going to a twice billing formula on real estate to where people pay part of their taxes in May or June, I think it is, and then the later half. Now, that's not on my end of the game because what I do is I get together the books. After I get the books, the real estate book and the personal property book, I then take that to the treasurer's office. And the treasurer at that point does the billing and the collection of the taxes. It's a part of this concept of separation of powers and checks and balances. The concept of having twice billing has some pluses and it has some minuses. One of, I think, the minuses is that it is going to add additional cost. It's going to do that. The plus side is it might create a better cash flow for counties and jurisdictions. That's not an issue at this point, to be honest with you, that I feel real comfortable going into a lot of detail because it's not within the jurisdiction of what my office is. But I would urge folks to do this, and this is actually, Blake, something I'm going to do, is that if I'm correct, and I don't want to speak inappropriately here, but I believe I'm correct, is that the treasurer's office will set up a payment system on a monthly system, possibly automatic withdrawal out of accounts to whatever individuals wish for it to be. I'm going to do that because I'm just like everybody else. I receive my property taxes and my real estate taxes, and I'm sitting there thinking about Christmas or this or that. I understand that because I go, ooh, that's that's a chunk of change, and I'm going to do that to where I set up just an automatic payment that goes into, whether it be 20 or 30 or whatever somebody figured out that they would need to do. I think that is something that folks may want to contact the treasurer's office about and possibly see how they would go about it, because honestly, it's not within the duties of my job and my office. But I would urge them to contact the treasurer's office. There's great folks down there. They'll be more than happy to to help everybody with that. The other issue, Blake, that I want to mention is as people are doing their taxes right now, if anybody still has that Virginia state tax, or they have tax questions, as I mentioned, I have a great staff. Becky, who's wonderful, chief deputy, very knowledgeable, very sharp. Suzanne, who's over my real estate, we're so fortunate to have her. Even though she doesn't do the assessing of the properties, she has a very, very good handle on it. The primary reason is it's a real oddity for someone in the real estate department. She is a licensed appraiser, which is a big help. The other person I have who works in personal property, I send her off to the IRS class at Virginia Tech every year so that she becomes knowledgeable about federal taxes. Now, we're not going to do complicated taxes, but the reason we do that is because we want to be a source of information for folks. If people are doing their taxes, they need questions answered or anything, Miss Sarah Kegley, who works in my office, does a great job. I'm fortunate. I count my blessings when it comes to staff. I count my blessings in terms of ability to work with good folks. It's nice. Not as nice as teaching school, but it's nice.
Again, we're talking to Mr. Jeff Richardson, Commissioner of Revenue for Smith County. Our last question. I have heard that a new courthouse is something we have to do. I've also heard it's being forced upon us, and we have to build a new state-of-the-art building to accommodate yours and other constitutional offices. Why, when we have so many empty buildings already? What is your thought on all of this, Mr. Richardson?
That's a tough question. And as I was sitting and I was eating dinner with some folks and one night, and we were kicking it around and we were talking about the courthouse, and the one thing that conclusion I said to everybody else, I said was, if there was an easy answer, it would have already been found. Is it somewhat being forced? I think that is an issue. I think that potentially the county could be under a court order involving it. I can say this because my knowledge of the detail of it, and I have made some suggestions. I can say this in terms of the board members and the folks that I sat in. I guess it was to sum it up, a year and a half ago, I just happened to be up at a board meeting, and they were having to have a vote on that courthouse. And on that particular issue, I don't even remember what the issue was. It went 4-3. It was a 4-3 vote, very close. And the one thing as I sat there and watched those board members that you could see was that there was angst and concern and real worry on the faces of all 7, no matter whether they voted yay or they voted nay. And I feel for them. They have some very difficult decisions that they're going to have to make. And this is a decision that is whatever their decision is going to be. It's not going to be cheap. And I will tell you this, we went to a meeting one day and it had the attorneys, the attorney I believe that was there that day was from the Supreme Court. And I brought up the point that he didn't live here, and that every time all of us make a financial decision to spend X amount of money for something instead of something else, that creates what is called an opportunity cost. That means that if you spent that money to that item, you can't spend it towards something else. And the opportunity cost that I pointed out to him in Smith County was the White Elephant, which was a new school. And he didn't have to live here. And I can say, without any doubt, it was water off a duck's back. For him personally, along those lines of that given day, that wasn't an issue. And I think it's that kind of climate that the board is having to reach some of these decisions. I don't think there's any board member that's excited about having to spend the money towards this. But used to love to play rook. And when you played rook, the thing was you always had to play the cards that were in your hand. And right now, the cards that are in the hands of the Board of Supervisors are not particularly strong. And they are going to have really really, really difficult decisions to make